Deconverted man here. This one should be simple. Mr. Sigma. I can prove God exists. Or Sligia? Silega? I don't know.
I can prove that God exists.
I don't think you can.
Welcome back. I'm a Christian man and I believe in God, but I never liked it when people force their beliefs upon others. I think that a genuine connection with God should come from yourself,
Well, ideally, the connection should come from it if it wants any connection at all. But the so-called connection with God would be the ultimate in a parasocial relationship. You're always talking to it, but it never talks back.
from your own conclusions. It should come from your own mind. My point is, I have no saying in what you believe in, and I'm not trying to change your mind. But I can prove that God exists.
No, you can't.
Without a doubt. I'm not trying to make you believe in God, but I can prove that God exists. Let's get started. I have two main arguments to why God exists without a doubt. One is my argument of logic, and the second one is my argument of morality.
Okay, an argument of logic. That's not how you would say that. You mean to say a logical argument. And the moral argument. Oh, good. Precept with extra steps. All right.
Let's start with logic. And this is funny because people usually don't buy this argument, even though it's...
All right, people don't buy this argument. Well, then don't make it. If people aren't accepting the argument, maybe it's not a very good argument. But maybe there's a deeper reason why no one, quote, buys the argument, end quote, is because it's full of fallacies.
It's undoubtedly true. And that is this. Everything needs to come from something.
Everything needs to come from something. All right. Everything. All right. You're going to stick with that, right? You're not going to change that idea at all. It's always going to be that everything has to come from something, right? By the way, nobody claims that the universe came from nothing except for theists. So, but yeah, okay, sure. Let's see if you stick with that idea or not. Everything comes from something.
Stuff doesn't just appear from out of nowhere. There's not magically a banana that just teleports into your hand, right?
But if there's a God that can do anything, that God could magically make a banana appear in your hand. That would actually pretty interesting proof of God. Hey, God, make a banana appear in my hand. It didn't happen. Oh, well.
That would be completely illogical. And there needs to be a source. Everything needs to start from somewhere. Like my phone. It didn't just appear like this, right? It started in a case, and then it was in a factory, and then it was a bunch of components that were separated. Then it was a bunch of raw materials, and then it was stuck in a mountain. You can keep going and keep going and keep going. You with me? Now, this is where the argument for God comes. The kindergarten cliffhanger. When you were told about the universe and how it got created, you were told about the Big Bang. Just a random explosion in the middle of space that just made the whole universe.
I don't know. Maybe you should have stayed in kindergarten, stayed in school at any rate. I don't know that they teach this in kindergarten, but that's not what the Big Bang is. So, hey, look, here's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Bang was used pejoratively by an opponent of the Big Bang who couldn't imagine the universe would begin this way. He wanted the universe to be in a steady state at all times. So he used the term Big Bang as an insult to the ideas that people were having.
Yeah. Now, if you start from the beginning,
where do photons?
Oops. Anyways, yeah. So it's not meant to be a bang. The term was an insult and just stuck. But look, hey, look, Britannica. It wasn't a bang at all. Not in the common definition. Okay. Then you've got, did they show that on screen or whatever. What is the Big Bang Theory? The Big Bang stands the most widely accepted. The universe began as an infinitely hot, small, dense point, which rapidly expanded and continued to stretch. Hey, look, if you type into Google, science, the Big Bang not an explosion, the AI says no, the Big Bang was not actually an explosion. Oh, right there. Oh, that was easy to find out. I don't know. Maybe you're not smarter than a kindergartner, though. All right. Where is this? Where did he go? Oh, man. There it is.
Well, that's a bunch of horseshit. Because even if that's true, that sand grain or whatever you want to call the Big Bang needed to come from somewhere.
Well, it, again, wasn't an explosion. Was an expansion. Needed to come from somewhere. Well, that's a supposition you're making. It might have always been there. All that stuff was always there because there wasn't time yet. So there wasn't any moment before that. So it's just simply always there. So it came from what was there because it was always there. It's very hard to wrap your head around. But the problem is you're trying to use deductive reasoning on something that may not allow for deductive reasoning to be used. The fact of the matter is, when you go back to the earliest or earlier points of the universe, science estimates that the temperatures would be insane. It's called the Planck temperature. At this temperature, atoms cannot form. So there are no molecules. There is not an ability for things to be. So in a universe that's that hot, we don't know what effects that would have on reality. We don't know what the physics would be like. In fact, well, it's hard to say you have physics when you don't have physical anything yet because it's too darn hot. It has to cool down first before protons and neurons can form. So your lack of understanding of any of this makes it very unlikely that you're going to get anything right, but you're attempting to apply deductive reasoning into a zone where we don't know if deductive reasoning is still applicable or not. And you're just assuming that it is. You're assuming that there's always a cause and effect. But when you get to the Planck temperatures, cause and effect might not be a thing anymore. We don't know. We do not know. Science does not know. Humans do not know. That is not okay to put, well, therefore God there. Just, we don't know. Where did it come from? It was always there, probably. We don't, just stop. Goodness gracious.
It can't just have been nothing and then just appeared. It needed to start somewhere.
How do you know it couldn't be nothing? Just say that. And I love how, again, nobody says that it came from nothing, but let's just play that game. Okay, how do you know it didn't come from nothing? Because why? Why do you think that? Well, you might say, well, because nothing produces nothing. Well, how do you know that? Well, that's the way it is. But what is that you're talking about? It's a rule or a law, right? That's something. So you're saying that there's a law that says something can't come from nothing. Then that's not nothing. You have a law. You have something that applies to the way that reality is. So that's not a true nothing. A true nothing would be that anything can happen because there's no rules that it can't. But of course, such deep thinking is beyond the means of this guy.
You get what I'm saying? A magic sand grain doesn't just appear in space. It needed to
A magic sand grain. Well, I guess that's what your god is. So
have started somewhere, right? It needed to have
No.
come from somewhere. Maybe it was a
maybe not. We don't know.
separate universe. Maybe it was from a whole nother galaxy. Maybe it was from a whole nother.
Or maybe it was just always there. The energy that was at the initial point of the singularity was always there. And it didn't come from anywhere. It just always was. So now, see, you want to transfer that always was to a different entity in full, which you're going to do in a moment here. But we're going to save a step. Instead of positing God, I'm just going to say everything that was ever needed for the universe was always there.
Dimension, but no matter how far back in time you go, there needs to be a start point. Or does it? What is the one being that we know of that is infinite?
There is no being that we know of that's infinite. This is a loaded question because you're assuming that there is a being that we know of that is infinite. There is no being that we know of that is infinite. And there's many problems with stating that there would be such a thing. So let's just posit this and see how it goes. So let's say that in the recorded history of the world, this one guy, Ian Davenport, he's been around since the earliest form of writing. He's he's appeared here, there, and everywhere. He's just walked the earth. He's gone everywhere, and he's just an immortal being that's been with us as long as we can remember. Now, he's not God. He doesn't claim to be God. He can't die. I don't know. He's immune to damage. I don't know. Whatever. However that works. Doesn't matter. Okay. Now, somebody is like, hey, look, this guy, he must be infinite because he hasn't died yet. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. We don't know that. We know that he hasn't died yet, but that doesn't mean he'll never die. We don't know that he's infinite. And in fact, we would never be able to prove that he was, even if he was infinite, because you never get to the end of infinite. He just keeps going on and on and on, right? And so it could be that, the moment after that you stop watching, that's when he finally expires, right? But you stopped watching, so you assumed it was infinite. And so you would be wrong. So even an infinite being could never be confirmed to actually be infinite. You could only assert that it was infinite. You couldn't prove that it was infinite. Anyways.
That has always existed and that will always exist. That is beyond our human logic because...
Okay, now you said earlier that you had a logical argument, and now you're saying something is beyond logic, which means that it cannot be logical, which means whatever this thing is not in your argument anymore.
Because it's an infinite being. That would be God. It's not about if he exists. He literally needs to exist.
All right, so this is just presuppositional. This is just asserting it as an a priori idea. And it has to be. It just has to be. That's not proof. No, it doesn't have to be. No, it doesn't have to be. See, I could just say, no, it has to not be. See, it can't be. There you go. Same thing. I've given you no argument. I'm just saying it. That's not good enough.
For the universe to exist. Do you get what I'm saying? Because no matter how...
Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get what you're saying?
How far back you go and how many theories you make, there needs to be a beginning. And
but there doesn't need to be a beginning because you just posited a thing that's beginningless. So the thing is, you're already breaking all the rules that you set forth. Everything needs to be made, but here's the thing that didn't need to be made. Everything has to have a beginning, but this thing doesn't have to have a beginning. So it's breaking all the rules. Isn't that interesting? That's called special pleading.
The beginning can't be nothing, but God has always been, and God...
How do you know that?
Will always be. God is an infinite being that...
How do you know that?
Must exist for the...
How do you know that?
Universe to exist.
How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you... Hello? Hello? Hey, how do you know that? Yeah, but it's like you're just saying that it's there. You're not proving anything. God has to not exist for the universe to exist. It just has to not be. It's the same. Come on, man. It's so bad.
I hope you understand what I mean. God.
Yeah.
God doesn't need a creator. God.
Oh, okay. So earlier when you said that everything needed a creator, you were lying then. Got it.
God is the creator. And that's my argument of logic. Why I call
that's your argument of logic. Well, there was no logic there. That was not a syllogism. And that was not valid. So, and it can't hope to be sound. And even if I ignore the fact that there's no syllogism, which I really shouldn't, every single thing we said was bald assertions, special pleading, and non sequitur. So you gave us absolutely dipkus.
Call it the kindergarten cliffhanger is because you were told in kindergarten that this random explosion just appeared and created the universe. But you're like,
You were? I mean, I don't think I was taught about this in kindergarten. When do kids learn about Big Bang? Let's see. Primary school. Oh, okay. About years 4 to 6. All right. So, yeah. All right. So, all right. So it doesn't appear to be kindergarten. Well.
like, where did it come from? And the teacher
We don't know.
told you, we don't know. We have no idea where it came from. It just kind of appeared. Well,
I'm pretty sure that no teacher anywhere would say that. And if they did, they should be fired. I mean, because it's not correct in full. He's kind of doing a half truth now. In fact, he's not even doing a half truth. He's doing just outright lies. He's not telling us what teachers really say or anything. He does. It's obvious he doesn't have an education. I mean, at this point,
I'm not okay with that cliffhanger, and God
I'm not okay with it.
needs to be the conclusion.
I'm not okay with that. I'm just not. I love that. Isn't that great? I'm just not okay with that. Yeah, it's just, I'm just not okay with it. Yeah, that's it. I don't like it. Yeah, well, okay. I don't like your idea, so I'm not okay with it. So that means it's wrong. Oh, what's that? Oh, I'm supposed to pay my monthly electric bill. I gotta call him up. Hold on. Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, this is me, Dan Green. Yeah, look, I'm not okay with this electric bill. No, that's the right amount. I'm just not okay with it, so I'm not gonna pay it. No, I'm not okay with you guys turning on my power. Nah, I'm just not okay with it, so we're not gonna do it. Okay? Okay, bye. Yeah, that's gonna work. Driving down the freeway. 80, 88 miles, 90, 100. Oh, I better pull over. Sir? Yeah? What's up? You know how fast you were going? Oh, yeah, at least 100. All right, I'm going to see your license. No. I'm not okay with that. What? Yeah, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with you pulling me over or asking me for my ID. I'm just not okay with it. What? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not okay with it. All right, I'm sorry, sir. Go. Have a good day. Okay, bye. Wouldn't that be great? It's like you go out to to a restaurant. I want to order one of everything. Yeah, it's just everything. Nom. Okay, I'm good. All right, bye. Wait, sure, your bill. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with the bill. I'm not okay with it. I'm not gonna pay it. I'm just not okay with it. I don't have to do it because I'm not okay with it. That's just how things work now. Just say I'm not okay with it, and reality just vaporizes before your eyes. I'm just not. You owe me $50. I'm not okay with it. You know what? That's my comment now. I'm not okay with it. Equals. I don't have to do it. Anyways.
My second argument is my argument of morality.
Well, that wasn't an argument, but whatever. Okay.
My grandmother was the best person I've ever met in my entire.
Your grandmother was the best person. Okay, well, let them finish. Hold on. Sorry.
Argument is my argument of morality. My grandmother was the best person I've ever met in my entire life.
I mean, she was pretty good. I met her too, and we had a lot of good times together, her and I. I mean, She was a wild one, I gotta tell you. I mean, she introduced me to things that, wow, just I can't talk about them on YouTube. In fact, I can't talk about them in this state that I live in because the things that we did. Oh man.
She was a fantastic human being. I never saw her in a bad mood. She always took care of everyone in the family, and she was the most beautiful spirit in the whole world. Now, why
And she was a really good lay.
I say that is because if God doesn't exist and if religion doesn't exist, then I have to, in some way, accept the fact that her and all the horrible people in the world, like Adolf Hitler or Genghis Khan, that they all end up in the same place of nothingness. And
Oh no, how terrible. This thing has to be true. Therefore, I don't want this thing to be true. Therefore, it's not true. Oh yeah, this is called an appeal to consequence. I don't like it. It's just I don't want it, I just don't want it to be. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it. I'm just not okay with it. So it's not true. That's all. It's just that's his life. It's just I'm not okay with it, so it's not true.
will not accept that.
He will not accept it, even if it's real. It's just won't. I just won't accept it. I just no, just no. She was such a nice person. Yeah, okay, but here's the problem, guy. I gotta talk some theology with you, buddy. You said you were a Christian. Was your grandma a Christian? Because I got bad news if she wasn't a Christian. She not in the good place. She in the bad place. And she might not be there with other bad people. She was there with people that just didn't believe in the right sort of God. Yeah. Hindus and, Islamic people, some Jewish people, whatever. It's just average people, billions of people who didn't believe in the right God in the right way because you don't have celestial judgment. You have celestial um, uh, selection that if you believe the right thing, you get a pass. And if you don't believe the right thing, you don't. It's not about behavior, it's about belief. So you're lying about your own afterlife system. What you're talking about is Zoroastrian beliefs, not Christian.
You can't just go around your whole life and piss on people and be a horrible human being. Impossible. It is impossible. There must be some kind of cosmic justice that separates the people that were good in life from the people that were bad.
No, there doesn't have to be. Just because you want it to be and you would like it to be, that doesn't mean that there is a cosmic justice. But again, Christianity certainly doesn't propose to have cosmic justice. Hitler, if he believed in Christ, would be in heaven, not hell. And you can't say that wouldn't be the case. You can't say, oh, he wasn't a Christian. You don't know what was in his heart. You don't know what was in his mind before he pulled the trigger on himself. You have no idea. He could have repented to God in those final moments. You don't know. So you don't have celestial judgment in your system. It's interesting that an atheist has to tell you what your own system says. The Judeo-Christian system does not reward good behavior or punish bad behavior. It rewards belief, period. End of story. However many good deeds you do, doesn't matter. However many bad deeds you do, doesn't matter. You get forgiven as long as you accept Jesus. Well, maybe there's extra steps depending on your denomination of choice, but he's leaving that out too. So he's not talking about Christianity. He's talking about Zoroastrianism. Now, in Zoroastrianism, they do believe that you're judged based on your actions. So if you do good, you wind up in the good place. And if you do bad, you wind up in the bad place. Although what good and bad are is not really necessarily stated outright in Zoroastrianism. It's just kind of like, it's like, I guess, like what you thought was good, or maybe it's what society thinks is good, or maybe it's just whatever the universe thinks is good or God thinks is good. I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, But there's definitely no celestial judgment in the Judeo-Christian system. So get your own theology right, man.
Because if there's not, and listen up if you're atheist, if there's not a separation between the good people and the bad people,
Yeah.
then why don't you just go around and be a horrible human being?
Because I don't want to be a horrible human being? Why do I need the fear of being punished to be a good person, or the hope of a reward to be a good person? That would actually make me a terrible person, you know? And when I was a Christian, I actually thought pretty damn deeply about this, deeper than I think that this guy is thinking. I worried that I was gonna behave good because I wanted a reward. So I would, and there's no way to prove any of this, but I would pray to God, just like give me like, don't give me like a really good room or whatever, like, kind of like give me the room next to the noisy ice machine. It's just maybe not that bad, but like I don't want any special anything. And I'd be like, and I'm not just saying that so that you give me something special. Like, no, I really just don't want that, because I don't want it to be that I'm doing good for these rewards, right? So I'm just asking you to not give me these rewards, so I know that I'm not going to get those rewards. So that then when I do good, I'm just doing good because, good, not because I'm getting a reward. And I really did pray that prayer. And I really was sincere about and I was worried that I was going to do good to get good stuff, not because I wanted to do good. And it really bothered me internally in my own head. Like, I get stuck in my own headspace, worried that what if I'm only doing good because I want to please God? Shouldn't I just do good because it's good to do? And there was some story I remember, I think I read it, maybe I heard it. I think I read it, but it was like some monk. I don't know why I pictured him as like a Buddhist monk, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And he took this little like tiny cloth, and he'd go up and down this huge room, wooden floor, and clean it every single day. And it would take him like hours to do. And so finally, somebody was like, "Why are you doing this?" He's like, "Because it is good to do." And he wasn't told to do it. He wasn't rewarded for doing it. He just did it because it was good to do. And so I truly believed as a Christian, and I still believe now as an atheist, that doing good is good. That the reward of doing it is the doing it. And it might not be rewarding. And sometimes it's really hard to do good or do the right thing. Sometimes it might even punish you, but if it truly is good, then it is good, and you don't need any other incentive than it is the right thing to do. There doesn't need to be any reward. It is the act of putting your shopping cart in the little shopping cart spot. Nobody saw you do it. Nobody knows that you did it except for you. That's it. You get nothing for it. Maybe you get a little sense of satisfaction. Maybe. But even that's not guaranteed, So this idea of why don't you just do terrible, terrible things? Because I'm not a bad person. That's why I don't do terrible things. If you want to do terrible things and the only thing holding you back is because you think God is watching you, then you are a bad person. You are an evil, despicable person that's only held back from being evil and despicable by your fear of God. And that's pretty scary. And, some people protect themselves in their mind from deconverting by lying to themselves and saying that if they stop believing in God, that they would be a serial killer. Well, the truth is, no, they wouldn't be a serial killer if they stopped believing in God. But their fear of that is so great that their mind then protects the belief of God even more, because they're trying to scare themselves into keep believing this idea. Now, I suppose somebody somewhere might indeed act that out, that they stop believing in God and then they start killing people because they lied to themselves. And there might be that that there's a moment where you do something bad because you're like, well, there's no God, I can do this bad thing now. And it's like, yeah, but you know what? You could have done that bad thing even if there was a God, and then just said, hey, God, I'm sorry about that. And Jesus forgives your sins, doesn't he? So again, it's not about what you do, it's about the right belief in Judeo Christian.
Because it doesn't matter. I can just steal from people. I can just rob a store. I can just beat someone up. I can murder people. Like, who cares, right?
Well, other people care. So there's that. You're gonna get yourself killed or arrested. So there's that. So people absolutely care. There doesn't have to be a final consequence for there to be a consequence.
We all end up in the same place. After all is said and done, you'll end up a skeleton. So
Yeah, you will. And that doesn't change anything. The way that reality is doesn't bow down to your personal hopes, feelings, and desires. I want there to be a afterlife. That doesn't mean that there is one. Now, it'd be cool if there was. It'd be really cool if it was the sort of afterlife that I envision, which is one of where you can do, you're basically in a universe that of your own uh, desires, and that you can encounter other people that but they have their own universe. You can go play in their universe, they can play in yours. You have whatever rules you have, but it's not like there's rules that you can't like make people to hurt or whatever. Like you can make artificial beings that don't really have feelings or whatever, like the holodeck on Star Trek or something. So it'd be something like that, but then there'd be a room with a button that's behind a whole bunch of locked doors that you have to have the passcode to, and the passcode, but you have to enter all these passcodes to open all these doors, and you get to this button, you push the button, and it's like, are you sure you want to terminate yourself? And it asks you like 20 times or something, and you have to say yes every time, because after that, then it terminates you and you don't exist anymore. So it's like a fail safe, it's just to make, because you're gonna get bored eventually. You're gonna do everything that there is to do. So just and if you don't get bored, then fine, you don't need to use the button, but it's there if you need it. But at any rate, that would be my afterlife idea. But there's no reason to think that that is what's going on. And just wanting it to be true doesn't make it true.
we all end up in the same place. So who cares? I can just be a horrible human being, and it doesn't really matter, right?
Wrong. It absolutely matters to everybody that you affected here and now. Why does it have to be that there's another judgment that nobody can verify? Why does that matter? How does that change anything? We didn't get to see it. We didn't get to see you put on trial for the things that you did. Okay. Now, Hitler took himself out. You mentioned Hitler. Hitler took himself out and deprived the world from having that court case. That would have been an infamous court case. He would have been executed. I suspect he would have been hanged. He might have been shot. I don't know. But he definitely would have been put to death, for sure. But there would have been a trial. And, to try to get him to admit that he had done the wrong thing or that he was wrong, or to expose his egotism for the world to see or whatever. But we didn't get that because he took himself out. But that was, in the end, that was his, kind of in a way, that is him admitting that he failed. He didn't want to say that he failed, but he knew that he did. He didn't want to be taken by the enemy. He didn't want to give them that privilege. So we don't always get to put people on trial, But to pretend that there's a celestial judgment that we don't get to see where he is put on trial, well, that doesn't help me. I don't get to see that. I don't get to watch that, So it doesn't matter for me now because I don't get to see it. But yeah, things absolutely matter now. We don't need a final punishment to make things matter. That's just nonsense.
Heaven doesn't exist and God doesn't exist, so who cares, right? I can just go
No, it absolutely matters.
around and do whatever I want.
Well, you can go around and do whatever you want. That's true whether there's a God or not. You can absolutely go do whatever you want. I think it was Ricky Gervais who said, I rape the amount of people that I want to rape, 0. Or maybe it was Penn and Gillette. It might have been both. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I've done exactly the amount of evil deeds that I want to do, which is not 0, but it's like the times I have done stuff that I regret or whatever. It's like, well, the fact that I regret it, at least that's something. It's worrisome when you do the bad thing and you don't regret it, right? Or maybe you don't think it's bad. You're like, maybe it wasn't really bad. How do I know if it was bad or whatever, and ultimately, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to kind of forgive yourself and be like, I'm not going to make that mistake again, and move on and try to be a better person from then on. But this whole stupid idea that this guy has of, well, it just doesn't matter what I do because there's no punishment. It's like there's punishments here on Earth that you have to live with yourself. Do you think that serial killers are happy people? If you do, I mean, I've watched some of these documentaries and whatever, and cop interviews and whatever with the serial killers. They're not happy people. They're miserable people. Even when they seem to have like little or no emotion, they are not happy people. They are very miserable. They're very angry, and they're stuck in their mind. Their mind is a twisted place, and they will suffer with that for as long as they exist. So, if you take joy in killing or doing mayhem, then you're not a very good person, are you? So basically, you're saying that you'd be a terrible, awful person. That makes all atheists that don't believe in God that do good anyways really, really good people, and you a really terrible person.
I think deep down in your soul that that's not correct. And I think
I don't know that I have a soul, so I don't know anything about anything in my soul that I don't know that I have.
The idea of your mother and Adolf Hitler and Genghis Khan ending up in the same place after life makes you sick.
They're not anywhere. That's the thing, is the way that the world look. I'm skeptical about the end of life to some degree, in that the only thing I can say is, like, biologically speaking, your brain turns off, and if you are just your brain, then that's that. There is nothing else, but there is no there. And it's hard for me to understand that because, well, I can't experience it, and the only times I have experienced it, I don't experience it because there isn't a me there. So you can say, well, it's kind of like when you go to sleep. If you don't dream, you just, one moment you're asleep, or one moment you're awake, and then it's a new day. But if that just continued, if you kept sleeping, you wouldn't ever become aware. You wouldn't ever know that you were asleep because you aren't there to know. But I did go under for colonoscopy a couple times, and the latest time I remember a little bit better than the first time. But I tried to focus on that because I wanted to know what it was like to not be. And there's just this moment of like, oh, that fuzzy feeling in my head, that feels really weird. And then that was that. And then it's like the next moment she's waking me up and it's time to be done. And I'm just still hungry because I was hungry when I went under and I'm hungry when I wake up. There was no in between. There was no me there. There is no there. So there is no awareness. There is no anything. You don't know anything. You don't you're not. And it's really hard to conceive that. Uh why am I skeptical that that's where we wind up or how it winds up? Because I'm skeptical of everything, except for reality. And then it's like, oh, what's that mean? I don't know. Could the consciousness energy move somewhere? I don't think so. There's no indication of it, but I don't know. I just don't know. But it doesn't but I don't believe that there is, because there's no evidence that there is. And my desire, I wish that it was X way, doesn't mean that that is how it's going to be. It's like I can hope and dream and pretend that it's going to be a certain way, but that's all it is a hope and a dream and an illusion, something that you make up that feels comforting. And you say, oh, you'll feel sick knowing that everybody winds up in the same place. Well, no, it's not a place. But I don't feel sick accepting reality. I just accept reality. I don't have, whether I like it or not doesn't matter. I mean, some days I like it, some days I don't like it. I don't know. But it, even if it was true that it made me sick, that still wouldn't make it untrue. It still wouldn't make it that's not how reality was. Yeah, when you die, you're dead. Okay, and so what? Oh, you gotta just accept it and move on. I mean, what else are you gonna do? You can't. You can cry about it. You can't change it. Um, I hope that the scientists make the youth potion so we can all be young forever. Cool. I mean, that's nice. Some people fight against mortality, spend a lot of money on it trying to stay alive, but accepting reality as it really is far more freeing than believing in just made up stuff or believing in stuff that other people made up, because it makes it feel good, you know? And even if sometimes it makes you sad, like man, I miss my mom. She is gone from this mortal coil. And it feels like it just happened, even though it was years ago now. And I think about her and go, man, I really miss her. I really wish that she'd been able to see this, or I could have told her about this, or whatever. And it'd be nice if there is a her out there in some other universe or dimension or whatever, but that doesn't help me because I'm not there. She's there. And it doesn't help her because she's there and I'm not there, unless time doesn't matter and like everybody that's here now is also there because like time is instantaneous there or whatever. It's like, even though you're alive now, you're technically dead there. So like everybody that's alive now is already there because there's the time is different or whatever. So like you die, but everybody is already there, like, or whatever. I don't know. But it's just a belief. It's just something that you made up. That's it. And whether you like it or not, it's still going to be true. This appeal to consequence doesn't make it valid. It's not an argument. It's not logical. It's just you don't like it. That's all it is. You don't like that it's true, so you don't want to believe that it's true. Now, and again, I'm saying I don't know what happens when you die. I don't know. It seems to me that like that might be it, but I'm not 100% sure. Other people are. Answers an atheism guy, Mike. He's like, nah, you're just done. That's it. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, you might be right. I don't know. He's like, no, but I know. I'm like, nah, I mean, but you don't. But I'm like, all right, we can debate about it, but you're just denying what is or what could be because you don't like it. That's fallacious thinking.
Just as it should, because it's not correct. There needs to be justice in the universe, is what I'm trying to say. Now, those were my two arguments to why.
But there doesn't need to be justice in the universe. You just want there to be justice in the universe.
God exists. But hey, maybe you think I'm completely wrong about that. Please let me know what you think down in the comments down below.
I did, and I made this video. So yeah, you're completely wrong, and you don't have a valid argument. It's not sound. It's just I want it to be true, and I don't want it to be false, and that's all it is. Just it has to be this way, and I just refuse to believe it. I just refuse. He said it himself. He just so whatever reality happens to be, he just says, nah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need that. I just reject it. That's cool. No, I'm good. No, I'm good. No. See, I don't want that. No, I just don't want that. Sorry. Yeah. No, I don't want to pay taxes. I just don't want that to be true. I just, uh, yeah, there needs to be justice in the universe, and it needs to be something that somebody else does. Yeah, the justice needs to be carried out by a celestial entity we can't confirm, prove, or test in any way, shape, or form. And how is it going to what is that going to look like? Is it actually going to be justice, or is it going to, I mean, if you're the judge, jury, and executioner, is that really justice? I mean, not from our standpoint. The gods that we make up and the sort of justice systems that we make up uh don't wind up being fair. And the Judeo-Christian system, you know, really, really came up with something kind of brilliant in that they invented the idea of punishment and reward for your belief rather than your actions. And it's argued even in the Bible. There's arguments about, is it, that you have grace, or that you have to live a certain way or not. Like, I forget who it is, if it's Paul or someone else. It's like, I struggle with this. Like if I do bad stuff, then more grace is there, because then God's forgiving me even more for what I'm doing that's bad. And that's good that he's forgiving me, and I really love that he forgives me, so then I love God more. But then I'm not supposed to do the bad, because God wants me to do what's good, and I prove that I love God by doing good, even though technically I don't have to do good. I can be forgiven, and it's fine. And he struggles with this in his writings. And it's all stories in my view, so I don't know what really happened, or if any of it. I don't think any of it really happened, but it's funny that it's still there, that struggle of, are you doing good because it's good, or are you doing good, or are you doing avoiding doing bad, or maybe you could do bad because you'll get forgiven. So it's like, and you'll have debates about, if you're a Christian, you could debate this all day. It's like, is it grace or faith? Is it works or grace? Is it some works? Well, no, you can't be saved by works. It's fully grace, full grace. No, well, no, it's not. Then you have to do some good. Well, or do you? And you Christians can't decide. This splits churches in half, or more than half. Where some people are like, no, it's full grace. Some people are like, no, it's works and grace. And it's like, well, who knows? Because there's no one way to look at it. Um, so I don't know. Look, just because you don't want something to be true doesn't make it false, and just because you want something to be false doesn't make it true. Yeah, or vice versa, however you want it. Just because you want something to be whatever it is, I would love, if I had $1 million, that'd be great. But that doesn't mean I just instantly have $1 million. That's not how things really work. And the justice that there is or isn't in the universe is the here and now. And yeah, some people will do stuff that sucks and get away with it. And some people will do good things and never be rewarded for it. And that sucks, but that's how it is. But that doesn't give you an excuse to be like, oh, I'm gonna just do, like, I'm just gonna do all this bad stuff. Because it matters. Matters what you do. Matters to you, if no one else, or it should. And if it doesn't matter to you, then maybe you are a bad person, because you don't have values that benefit yourself or anyone else. Well, maybe they benefit you, but not for long, not in the long run. Or maybe you do get away with it, but you have to be constantly on the run and in hiding. I guess you get adrenaline from that. You know, think of something, I don't know, just came to mind. Epstein, for whatever reason, came to my mind. And evil guy, definitely, absolutely evil. And was trying to, leverage that and use other people's vices and record them and, be like, hey, I've got blackmail material on you. And then he mysteriously killed himself, which he totally didn't. But at any rate, I'm not a skeptic about that. Yeah, he did not kill himself. I don't know. But yeah, but he totally did. Yeah, right. Just, yeah, right. Regardless, he was bad. And he did bad and enabled other people to do bad, and that certainly affected the girls that were affected by that. That certainly mattered to them. It mattered to them in those moments. They suffered during those moments, and they possibly or probably suffering even now. Hopefully they got mental help and are better, or as better as you can be after something like that. But um but they still suffered. And the people that maybe got away with doing the bad stuff, uh, well, they might get away with that until they die, but they know that they did that thing. So, does it bother them? I don't know. I'm not them. It might bother them, it might not bother them. But if it doesn't bother them, then they really are wicked people in a way, isn't it? Like, they don't care that they did this thing. They don't see the harm that it did. It makes me think of William Lane Craig. He's like defending genocide. I can't see how it hurt these people. Like, yeah, you can't see how people were hurt when they were killed. How terrible. How messed up is that? Here comes this army to drive you out of your land that you've lived in, and you don't see the harm that's happening from that? That's sick. That's twisted, man. You're evil. That's vile. And I'm not a saint. I've done stuff that I regret. I can't undo it. Go back in time and change it. It'll be nice. All I can do is try to be a good person going forward. And, I mean, there's things that people have done that, if that caught up to them or whatever, that they'd be screwed, they'd go to jail or whatever. And well, how are people going to think about them? They're not going to, and this is kind of weird. It might be unfair, but it is like, take the show Breaking Bad, for example. Okay, you got a character who lived a decent life. I mean, he's not a great guy, but he was loved by his friends and family, you know, and he didn't get satisfaction out of doing what he was doing, but he could have done something else. He could have, maybe, tried other stuff. I don't know. But instead of going the good route and doing something, being honest about his illness and getting help and accepting help where it came, he went this dark route. And in the end, his son tells him he hates him, and people hate him that once loved him, and they don't remember the good that he did. They don't remember all the good things that he did in their lives. They remember the bad stuff that he did. They remember the lives that he ruined. Isn't it weird how we're like that? Like, we just forget all the good stuff the person did. We just remember the bad stuff the person did. I don't know, but that's how we are. So, yeah, people will never forget Hitler and how evil he was. Is that how you want to be remembered? It's harder to be remembered as a hero. Martin Luther King Jr. Hopefully nobody forgets him. He did something that was amazing, that was out of love, that's to be respected. you know? But it's harder for whatever reason to be remembered for doing good than it is to be remembered for doing bad, you know? And I think that's why some of these school shootings became very popular, was young kids, especially young boys, who felt lost and didn't feel like they were getting what they needed, said the only way that anyone's going to ever remember me is if I, shoot up a school and kill all these people, and then they'll never forget my name, you know? And well, in a way they were right, but like that, I mean, what does that give you? Gives you a negative legacy? What did you win? You didn't really win anything, you lost. So that sort of empty, twisted victory is something that some people that are desperate might cling on to. And it seems to me like this guy and people like him who desperately say that there has to be a justice after life. Because when you die, it's over. It's like, yeah, well, yeah. And that doesn't change anything. They killed people. They ended their lives, and then they ended their own life or whatever, and all you're left with is the destruction. And you're like, well, why? What was the point of all that? And it's like, there wasn't a point. The point was destruction. The point was evil. And it's hard to do the opposite. Go into the school and hand out flowers. I don't know, give everybody $1. I don't know, do something positive, uh, you know, do a fundraiser for the school and collect money and give it to the school. Yeah, you can put that online, if you wanted to get some fame that way, or you could just do it in private. And who's cooler, the person that does it in private and gets recognized by the public, or the person that does it in public to be recognized? I mean, it depends. I don't know. It's hard to say, right? Do you want to be the villain or do you want to be the hero? Being a hero is hard. Being a villain, that's easy. It's easy to destroy. It's hard to build. But we should build. We must build. Because to do otherwise is evil. And to live as if it only matters because the next round will judge you is a pretty pitiful way to live, I think. I try to do good because it's good, not for any hope of reward or obligation to my fellow humans, but because I believe that it is good to do good, and I believe that it is wrong to do wrong, and I want to do good. I won't always. I'll fail. And that's why I have people that hopefully will help me to not fail and help me to, get back on my feet when I do fail, Anyways, that kind of went off into an interesting thought tangent, perhaps. Hopefully it made you think about something. I don't know. I don't think this guy thought about much of anything when he made this video. We don't have evidence. We don't have a repeatable test. We don't have a valid and sound argument. So for those reasons, we need to be skeptical of his conclusion. And until next time, stay skeptical. And after next time, we'll keep being skeptical. And also give somebody a hug.